At dawn, I light a cigarette again. The cold morning air is particularly piercing, burning my lungs and causing a painful tingle in my chest. I stand on the edge of a hill, looking out at the stark landscape of the West Bank, which is slowly disappearing into the morning mist. There's nothing in this landscape that reminds me of home, nothing that can bring me any comfort. All I think about is my family under endless bombing in Gaza, far away from here. My thoughts return to them again and again, like birds finding no shelter, and every night like this one I can't sleep. Sleep has long been a luxury I cannot afford. How can I sleep when there is only one thing on my mind? Did they survive this night? My family is all in Gaza now, but they are scattered in different neighborhoods like shards of a broken mirror. My wife and children live in a tent somewhere in Khan Yunis in the south. 4 times already they have been forced to leave their temporary shelters since this terrible war began. They have had to sleep in the street, to seek shelter in mosques or abandoned houses that cannot protect them from the cold or from fear. And my children, they are still very young, between 5 and 14 years old. They do not understand why their world is crumbling before their eyes, why they have to hide from bombs and sleep on the cold ground instead of playing and learning. These thoughts tear my heart. Every time I think of them, I feel pain and anger fill my being. How can one understand this? How can one bear it? Every morning, as soon as it starts to get light, I grab my phone and try to reach them again. These short conversations are the only thing that gives me the strength to go on living. But the waiting, this unbearable waiting. Sometimes I manage to reach them, and then I hear their voices, tired, scared, but alive. Sometimes the connection is cut, and I am left terrified, not knowing what happened to them, how they survived another night. These moments of waiting, when I can do nothing but wait, seem like an eternity to me. At such moments, I feel like time stops and every beat of my heart echoes in my chest with pain and anxiety. I am a so-called worker from Gaza, a Palestinian who used to cross the border every month to work in Israel. I used to work in an iron factory, spend weeks at a time there, and then return home for 3 days to be with my family. That was my life, my routine. But things have changed. Since my father died, I became the eldest man in the family and I had all the responsibility. I had to take care of my brothers and sisters, my wife and children. But what could I do now that I was so far away from them? Everything changed on the 7th of October when Hamas launched its attack on Israel. I was at work when it happened. The next day, Israeli soldiers stormed into our factory. They shouted at us, threatened us, forced us to flee to the West Bank. They promised to shoot us if we didn't leave. I hid in the mountains for 2 days before I could get to the West Bank. It turned out that I was not the only one who tried to escape. According to the Palestinian Authority Ministry of Labor, there were more than 6,000 like me. When I passed the Israeli checkpoint, the soldiers took everything from me, my money, my belongings, except my phone. I consider myself lucky to have my phone with me. Thanks to it, I can still keep in touch with my family. But there were others who were not so lucky. They were arrested, beaten up, and some disappeared without a trace. I have no family or friends in the West Bank. I have found refuge among other workers like me. We live in terrible conditions. We sleep on the bare ground, we have no mattresses, no blankets, no heating. We are hungry, we are cold, but what is that compared to what my relatives in Gaza are going through? Every time I go to bed, I think about how they are there, amidst the ruins and constant fear. Whatever I feel here is nothing compared to their suffering. Gaza is hell on earth right now. Every day is a struggle for survival. Bombings, hunger, hopelessness. But even here in the West Bank, the violence is not subsiding. On the contrary, it increases every day. Even before the 7th of October, we were harassed, threatened, and attacked by settlers and Israeli forces, but now it has become part of our daily lives. Every day is like a nightmare from which it is impossible to wake up. Palestinians are beaten, arrested. If they survive these attacks, they face new dangers. Israeli military operations in the Jenin and Tulkarm refugee camps have claimed many lives. We Palestinians live with the constant feeling that death could come for us at any moment and that no one will protect us. Here in Nablus, I met a team of social workers from MSF. They referred me to a psychological counseling program that has been running in the West Bank for many years. I never thought I would ever go to therapy, but now it turned out to be the only thing that helps a little bit. I already knew MSF. My father had been treated by them a few years ago in Gaza. When I found myself seeing a counselor, I didn't know what to say at first. How can I put into words the pain I was feeling? How can I express the fear that tears me apart every time I think about my family? But therapy has helped me to find strength and to deal with that despair at least a little bit. Every meeting with a counselor is a step towards not going crazy with what's going on around me. But despite this, I desperately want to go back to Gaza. I need to be with my family no matter what. At one point, the Israeli authorities said they would allow workers from Gaza to return, but those who have tried to do so have been arrested, robbed, interrogated, and beaten. If I am arrested, I will lose my last contact with my family, and that is unacceptable to me. My wife also wants me to go back. She says it's better to die together than to live apart. It's too hard for her to take care of the children alone, especially under these conditions. Each new day brings more horrors, and it's a miracle to survive. No water, almost no food. They already drink salt water from the sea to quench their thirst. If one of them gets sick, they can't go to the hospital. There is no room, and the hospital itself is no longer safe. My youngest, a 5-year-old son, recently asked me, "Daddy, why are you letting me starve to death? The other children, their dads died with them. Don't leave us to die alone." These words break my heart. How can I respond to this? How can I explain to him why I'm not there for him, why I can't protect him? I try to find comforting words, but he sees right through me. "Don't lie to me, Papa," he says. "Come now so we can die together." These words give me no rest day or night. I realize that I must do everything I can to return, even if it costs me my life. In Gaza, where death can catch up at any second, people have started writing their names on their bodies so that they can be recognized when they die. My wife and 3 older children have written their names on their arms, legs, neck. But the youngest is too small, she couldn't bring herself to do it to him. It's too painful for her. I know she's doing her best to protect them, but how can she handle this alone? I have to be there for them. Every night, before I go to bed, my thoughts return again and again to what awaits us after the war. The whole world I knew is destroyed. Streets, hospitals, universities, schools, all destroyed. What will happen to us if we survive this horror? How will we live in a world that no longer exists? It's not fair. I am an ordinary person, I work, I pay taxes, I should have basic rights like everyone else. But no one hears us, no one wants to stop this suffering. I take one last puff and the light of the cigarette goes out, leaving me in the dark. Dawn rays begin to color the hills, but there is no warmth in that light, only a reminder that a new day brings new suffering. All I want is to return to my family, to be with them even if it means death. If I am to die, I want to die next to the ones I love. Dawn is slowly spilling over the hills, painting the sky pale pink and orange, but to me it's just another reminder that there's another day of fighting ahead, another day I'll spend away from my family. The light of the cigarette has long since gone out, leaving only the bitter taste of ash in my mouth, but I'm still standing in the same spot, unable to take my eyes off the horizon. My thoughts, as they always do, return to my family, who may now be trying to find shelter from the new bombing, or worst of all, no longer have time to hide. Every day here in the West Bank begins with the same ritual for me. I go to the phone, dial a number with trembling hands and wait for a family member to pick up. This waiting is the most unbearable. My heart freezes and then starts beating so hard that it feels like it is about to jump out of my chest. Sometimes I manage to get through, and then when I hear their voices I am relieved, if only for a moment. I ask them how they are, how the night went, and try to keep my tone calm, even though I can barely hold back the tears myself. But more often than not, the call just cuts off, and I am left in a frightening silence, not knowing if they are alive. In the West Bank, in the place where I found temporary shelter, all of us workers from Gaza like me live in constant anxiety. We sleep on the bare ground in the cold, without blankets or mattresses. Some of us are sick, some of us have been injured while trying to escape, but there are no doctors or medicine here. All we have is each other. We share the last of our food supplies, support each other in moments of desperation. But despite this, each night brings new fears, new worries for those left behind in Gaza. Gaza. This once vibrant city is now a ruin. The bombings continue around the clock, and no one knows when they will stop. Life has become a struggle for survival. Every day my family faces an impossible choice. Stay in the shelter, risking being buried alive under the rubble, or go outside where a shell may catch up with them. Water has become a luxury, and now they have to drink salty seawater to quench their thirst. Food is running low and the hospitals are overcrowded and can no longer take new patients. I was talking to my wife recently. She told me how children have started writing their names on their hands and feet. This is a terrible but necessary measure, so that if their bodies are found under the rubble, they can be identified. I still can't believe it. My wife and 3 older children wrote their names on the bodies, but our youngest, only 5 years old, is too young and my wife couldn't bring herself to do it. This thought that my family lives in constant fear, that they are preparing for death, it doesn't give me a moment's peace. When I was in Gaza, we had difficulties too, but I never felt so helpless. I was there for them, I could help them, I could protect them. Now that I am here, I feel completely useless. I know I should be with them, but all attempts to return to Gaza have failed. Israeli soldiers have been known to arrest and beat those who try to cross the border. But I am willing to risk everything to be with my family. Every day I repeat to myself, I have to go back. I have to be with them no matter what happens. But how? How do I get back? I have heard stories of those who have tried. They were arrested, they were beaten, all their belongings were taken away, many went missing. But despite this, my resolve has not waned. I know that if I stay here, I may never see my family again. And that thought scares me more than anything. My youngest son, a 5-year-old boy, asked me not long ago, "Daddy, why are you letting me starve to death? The other children, their dads died with them. Don't leave us to die alone." Those words rang in my ears like hammer blows on an anvil. I tried to explain to him that I was doing everything I could to come back, but how do you explain that to a kid who just wants his daddy around? "Come now so we can die together," he told me, and those words have stayed with me ever since. I know my wife and kids are trying to hang in there. My wife is a strong woman, she has always been the backbone of our family. But even her strength is running out. She wants me back, wants us to be together, even if it means dying. I understand her, I feel the same pain, the same desperate need to be with them, to be there for them in this terrible moment. But how? Every night as I lie on the cold ground, I think about what happens after the war, if it ever ends. My world is shattered. The streets I once walked, the hospitals, schools, universities, all destroyed. How will we go on living? How will we rebuild what is destroyed? I don't know the answers to these questions, but I know one thing. I cannot leave my family alone. I know that no one hears us. I know that nobody cares about our suffering. I am a simple man, I worked, I paid taxes, I deserve the same rights as everyone else. But in this world we have been deprived of even basic human rights. We are living in hell and no one is trying to stop this suffering. But despite all that, I have to go back. I must be with them even if it means the end. The first rays of the sun light up on the horizon, and the day begins anew. Another day of struggle, another day of suffering. But there is hope in this new day, hope that I will find a way back, that I will see my family again. Even if it costs me my life, I am willing to do anything to be with them again. This story is not just about me and my family. It is the story of thousands of people who are fighting for the lives of their loved ones every day, facing the countless difficulties and horrors of war. If it has touched you, if you have felt the pain and fear I am telling you about, I ask you to support us. Please share this story so that as many people as possible can hear it. Please like it, share your thoughts in the comments. Your support can help us get our voice out to those who can make a difference. Together, we can draw attention to this tragedy and perhaps take a step towards ending this suffering.